rumbo al cierre de actividades de esta 28 Asamblea de la Federación Internacional de Universidades Católicas. Es por ello que damos inicio a esta mesa redonda titulada Coreógrafos de la ética y de la investigación. Corre video, por favor.
Josep Garrel. Es presidente de la Asociación Europea de Universidades desde 2023. Licenciado en Ingeniería Informática por la Universidad Politécnica de Cataluña. Se doctoró en Ingeniería Electrónica por la Universidad Ramon Llull. Como miembro del cuerpo docente, su investigación se centró en la inteligencia artificial y el aprendizaje automático. Garrel también representó a las universidades españolas en el Consejo de la Asociación Europea de Universidades y participó activamente en la gobernanza de la educación superior nacional a través de la Conferencia de Rectores de Universidades Españolas. Josep Garrel. Doctor Aarón Domínguez. El doctor Aarón Domínguez es director y profesor de física en la Universidad Católica de América, especializado en física de partículas de alta energía e instrumentación de detectores. El doctor Domínguez ha desempeñado funciones de liderazgo clave en importantes experimentos en el CERN y el Fermilab, entre ellos el de subdirector del proyecto de actualización de los detectores CMS. Dirige un proyecto financiado por la National Science Foundation, en el que participan 9 universidades para mejorar las tecnologías de detección del gran colisionador de hadrones. Su experiencia incluye el diseño de rastreadores de partículas de silicio para mediciones precisas de colisiones. Ha recibido el premio NSF Career y es autor de más de 1,100 publicaciones. Doctor Aarón Domínguez. Rocío Angélica Salinas Osornio. Doctora en Ciencias de la Salud por la Universidad de Alcalá en España. Cuenta con más de 25 años de experiencia en nutrición clínica, con especialización en enfermedades metabólicas y salud materna. Certificada por ISAC, actualmente dirige la Unidad de Efectividad Institucional en UNIVA. Ha colaborado con la Universidad de Alcalá y el Instituto de Investigación Biomédica de Texas. La doctora Salinas ha publicado numerosos artículos y dirigido más de 50 tesis sobre nutrición y salud. Doctora Rocío Angélica Salinas Osornio. Doctor Francisco José Gómez Ortiz. Doctor en Teoría e Historia de las Instituciones por la Universidad de Salerno en Italia. Máster en Economía y Gestión Empresarial y Máster en Filosofía de la Acción Directiva por la Universidad de Navarra en España. Es administrador de empresas en la Universidad St. Louis de Estados Unidos. Fue vicepresidente de la Organización de Universidades Católicas de América Latina y el Caribe para la región andina durante 6 años. Actualmente es coordinador de la Red de Universidades Católicas de Colombia para la región central del país. Doctor Francisco José Gómez Ortiz. Sean bienvenidos a la Universidad del Valle de Atemajac.
Un aplauso, claro que sí. Recibimos en este estrado al profesor Josep Garrel, por favor. Un aplauso, por favor, para el profesor. Al doctor Aarón Domínguez. Y a la doctora Rocío Salinas. Un aplauso, por favor. Dejamos a nuestro moderador, el doctor Francisco Gómez.
Bueno, muy buenas tardes, good afternoon. Ya este es el final. Gracias por...
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear
I
you.
can't hear you.
We are just in the presentation. Muchas gracias. Thank you for being here and for our invitees who are to these last two sessions of the afternoon. And I think the intervention, or just to start, the title for me was it's interesting, Choreographers of Research Ethics. And I'm grateful
Hello, I
for,
can't.
for
If
the-
you can hear me, I cannot hear you. No, it's
Can you hear
totally
me?
silent.
Can you hear us, Professor? Yes? Well, I hope we can get him on the stage. I'm grateful for the invitation to this panel, for the bold metaphor that inspires it, the idea of Catholic universities as choreographers of research ethics. Ethics, like choreography, is not a solitary or purely technical act. It embodies language that requires coordination, sensitivity, and a shared vision. In this sense, Catholic universities are called not only to teach ethical principles, but to live them institutionally as communities that offer the world a different way of walking together in the pursuit of truth. Experience, institutional ethics for the perspective of university governance. As rector of the Catholic University of Colombia, I do not speak as a specialist who are in the panel in bioethics or as a member of a research committee. I speak from the perspective of university governance. Ethics in research cannot be separated from ethics in leadership and institutional culture. We ask ourselves, how do we set research priorities in the service of the common good, who ultimately benefit from our findings? Are we forming researchers who understand that truth without charity that can become destructive? In today's world, where human life is often instrumentalized by artificial intelligence, genetic manipulation, sorry, wait a second because I lose part of my, in a world it's also, or political polarization, Catholic universities have a unique voice to offer, a deep affirmation of the dignity of the human person as the axis of knowledge. This is expressed in promoting research on human rights, reconciliation, or equitable access to technology, but it also requires limits. Not everything technically possibly is morally acceptable. How can we be prophetic without being excluded? In many academic spaces, the values we uphold, such as the sanctity of life or the integral vision of the person, are perceived as outdated or obstructive progress. So I ask, and this is part of what the panel will be, how can we remain prophetic without being excluded from global academic dialogue? How do we avoid having our ethics dismissed as dogmatism and instead have it recognized as a deeply human and liberating perspective? If we are to be choreographers of ethics, we must also know how to move with courage and humility on the stage of the world. Our greatest contribution is not normative, but deeply testimonial. Our institutions must not become museums of principles, but laboratories of hope, where research always serves life, truth, and justice. So, I just want to give the voice to the experts so that we can at least try to answer some of these questions. And I changed to Spanish, so it's my mother tongue is easier. Tenemos que resolver y tratar de entender estas preguntas sobre nuestros comités de éticas, los proyectos que manejamos en las universidades, la formación de nuestros investigadores. Y con eso, pues quiero dar la bienvenida a nuestros panelistas y quería, en primer lugar, pues invitar al Estado al profesor Josep Carrel, benvingut, que sé que es catalán, o sea que no parlem català, pero lo entén, aunque nos hablará en inglés. Bienvenido y escucharemos pues las perspectivas de cada uno de estos expertos. Muchísimas gracias.
Bona tarda. Buenas tardes, good afternoon. As you all know, this is the first panel after the last lunch of the last day of a very, very long week. So thank you very much for being here. I will try to keep it very, very simple, and I'm not going to use slides, okay? I have 10 minutes, and I will spend 1 minute for a couple of initial remarks. First, I would like to thank IFCO for inviting me to be here today and to represent the European University Association, EUA. The EUA is the largest and most comprehensive university association in Europe. We have almost 900 members from 49 different countries. No other university association in Europe has this size and this level of representativity. But I am also here as former rector of Ramon Llull University in Barcelona, in Catalonia, Spain. My rector is here. Thanks, rector, for being here on Friday. Ramon Llull University is a medium-sized comprehensive university. It was created 34 years ago by the Archdiocese of Barcelona, the Society of Jesus, and the Brothers of La Salle. So today I will probably mix two heads, my current role and my role as former rector of my university. Second, I would like to thank my good friend and outgoing IFCO president, Isabel, for your outstanding leadership role in this federation for 7 years. So thank you very much, Isabel. And obviously, congratulations to the new elected president and good luck on this endeavor. Okay, I will structure the following 9 minutes of this initial intervention in one big part and some final open questions. The first part will be a description of the European context regarding the research ethics topic in general, while the second part, that it will be shorter, and according to the suggestions received by the organization, I will share with you one recent situation in Europe that represents a dilemma for many people, not for everybody, but at least for many people. And finally, and I will link all this with the open question about the public voice of Catholic universities. So let's begin with the description of the European context regarding the research ethics issue. At the European level, in the inter-university fora, etc., we talk about research integrity, not research ethics exactly, research integrity. Obviously, integrity is a broader concept than ethics, although integrity is closely linked to ethical principles. I would say that research integrity is something similar to following ethical principles and professional standards when reporting, and when assessing research. And what is normally included in these professional standards and in these ethical principles? Many people agree that at least 5 big concepts must be included. First one is honesty, second one accountability, third one rigor, fourth transparency, and last but not least respect. This is broader than ethics, but it is hard to understand what integrity is without ethics. The key document for research integrity at the European level is one document with the title, the European Code of Conduct for Research Integrity. I am going to refer to that document as the code, just for short, okay? The code was elaborated and was led by the European Federation of Academies of Science and Humanities, the organization that gathers all the academies around Europe. The document, the code, outlines 4 fundamental principles that must be followed. The first one is reliability, closely related to high-quality processes. Second one, honesty, which includes, from the code perspective, from the code point of view, developing, undertaking, reviewing, and reporting, communicating research in a transparent, fair, full, and unbiased way. The third one is respect. Respect for colleagues, for research participants, for research subjects, for society, for ecosystems, for the cultural heritage, for the environment, etc. And the fourth fundamental principle of the code is accountability for the research that is being done, from the original idea to the publication. Accountability for the management and organization of the whole process. Accountability for the training of new people on research, for supervision and mentoring of these new people, and accountability for its wider societal impacts. The code also includes good research practices in several contexts. I mean, examples to put in practice all these fundamental principles. For the sake of time, I'm not going to describe them all, but I will mention some of the topics that are included. For example, the importance of the institutional culture, the culture of the institution, the need for ethical guidance for young researchers. Expressions such as leading by example are explicitly included in the document. The need to implement safeguards for the due respect for many, many people, or for all the people and for all the aspects of research. The need to care, the need not to harm, the need to reduce potential risk, etc. Okay? So that's a summary of the examples that the code gives us when explaining what the different fundamental principles mean. Okay, you may wonder if the code is accepted in Europe or is just a theoretical exercise. It is. It is accepted, although I don't know if everybody is aware of its existence. And what is really important, at least at the European scale, is that the European Commission recognizes the code as the reference document for research ethics and integrity in all the European Union funded research activities, which, as you know, are very, very important. You can imagine the impact of this decision in the whole European research area. To finish this description of the European context, let me make a very simple and quick exercise with you. And I invite you all to follow this exercise. The question is, does the code of the academies overlap with the Christian tradition? Let's review, if you don't mind, the fundamental principles of the code and see the possible overlapping with these, let me say, Christian principles. The honesty principle of the code, it's the first one, remember? In the Christian tradition, we talk about the value of truth, right? So the first thing has an absolute overlapping. The second one is accountability. In Christian tradition, clearly calls for the personal responsibility before the community, before God, correct? So the first two principles overlap. The third one is respect, a clear link with the dignity of the individual according to the Christian tradition, right? And last but not least, the fourth fundamental principle is integrity. And the Christian tradition identifies the virtue of ethics, things such as acting with consistency, with justice, with humility, okay? So I think that that's good news. I mean that from the Catholic perspective, we can be happy because there is a clear overlapping between our tradition and the main fundamental principles of the code. Okay, so let's move to the second part of my initial presentation, which, following the recommendations of the organization, will be to share with you one recent situation and the always open question about the public voice of Catholic universities. Since the war in Ukraine began in February 2022, the public European talk about defense, which mainly means military in general, deeply shift. One of the debates is obviously about the role of research institutions, about the role of universities. And the main question is, should the universities plan or do research for military applications? The European Commission, for the first time ever, openly talks about eliminating the classical restriction to apply the European Research and Innovation Framework Program funds, which are the main funds in Europe for research, to military applications. They talk about dual use, which is probably an understatement because it simply means to plan research, to do research, having in mind civil and military applications from the very beginning, which was simply forbidden until now. This is, of course, a new challenge for institutions and for the people that goes beyond the code that I have been talking about and goes beyond any type of regulation. What should be the position of Catholic universities in this debate? At the end of the day, the question is if the war is acceptable. Should the Catholic institutions work for advancing the military capabilities of one country? I'm not going to try to answer all these questions, but I think that it is a clear example of the complexity of the research ethics. And to finish, let me link this current challenge for many people, with this current dilemma from many people, with the last set of questions I mentioned at the very beginning. And I will only make questions and I will not even try to answer, okay? Where is the public voice of Catholic universities in all this debate? I mean, the recent challenge, the recent dilemma about the dual use of research, or probably, if I may, more important than that, in the long run, where was the voice of Catholic universities, the voice of Christian researchers, when developing the European Code of Conduct for Research Integrity that I have been talking about? I need to say that it was there. I need to say that it is still there, because many Catholic people, many Christian-inspired universities, many Catholic universities were and are involved on these processes. Many Catholic universities at the European level are working on that. Some of them are key players, to be honest. I'm not going to name names, okay? But they are key players. But I need to also add the critical last question. Are they involved in a way that they openly and explicitly mention the Catholic, the Christian identity of those institutions or not? I think that this is a very important question to reflect about, an open question for the panel, if you wish. But especially, it is a question for the audience. It is a question for reflecting after this General Assembly. I'm going to stop right now, okay? But I will be happy to comment later a little bit about that. Thank you very much for your attention.
Now, I give the word to Dr. Salinas, please.
Bueno, pues muy buenas tardes a todos. Muchas gracias por asistir a este panel, por participar en él, pero sobre todo por permitirse conocer las instalaciones de UNIVA, institución en la cual trabajo orgullosamente. También quiero agradecer a los organizadores de la Asamblea la invitación a participar en este panel que, bueno, pues desde el momento en el que recibí la invitación y pude identificar el título del panel, causó una gran inquietud en mí. Esto de hablar de las universidades católicas como coreógrafas, de la ética de la investigación, pues me llevó a pensar, pues, ¿qué es un coreógrafo, verdad? Para poder entender cómo una universidad católica puede participar como coreógrafo, como tal. Si bien nosotros sabemos que un coreógrafo es aquel que es capaz de montar una coreografía, es decir, una representación de movimientos, figuras, etcétera, que de alguna manera le permiten obviamente a su elenco, pues saber qué hacer, ¿no? Para poder llegar a ese fin, a ese objetivo que seguramente ha de ser pues una escenografía, ¿no? Una escena de baile, de ritmos, etcétera. Y si este concepto lo utilizamos en la intervención ética que debe de tener una universidad católica en términos de investigación, entonces tendríamos que comprender que toda universidad católica debe de brindarle a su comunidad universitaria el cómo, cuándo, dónde, con quién o para qué y demás interrogantes que se pudiera plantear la comunidad con respecto a la investigación, a sus procesos y a los tipos de investigación. ¿Para qué? Para que simplemente puedan hacer pues lo que se debe de hacer, incluso cuando no sabemos qué hacer. Para ello, como universidades católicas, contamos con directrices claras promulgadas en nuestra Constitución Apostólica, esto todos lo sabemos, el Ex Corde Ecclesiae, cuyo buen proceder conducen a la comunidad universitaria a la búsqueda de la verdad, mediante el diálogo entre la fe y la razón, y en la formación integral de nuestros estudiantes, con lo que logramos cumplir nuestra misión y visión institucional. Platicando muy en lo particular con respecto a UNIVA, que es la institución que yo represento, he de comentarles que la UNIVA es coreógrafa precisamente de la ética de la investigación desde el momento en el que cuenta con una filosofía institucional y un proyecto educativo alineados a dicha Constitución. Cuenta con una identidad institucional, es decir, sabe de dónde proviene, a dónde se dirige y cómo hacer las cosas. Está organizada y definida a partir de un ser y un deber ser. Cuenta con valores institucionales fundamentados en los valores cristianos, los cuales los declara públicamente y con lo que se compromete y refleja los principios que la comunidad universitaria considera determinantes para su comportamiento dentro y fuera de la institución, demostrando así su esencia y su razón de ser. El compromiso, el respeto, la responsabilidad, la honestidad, la justicia y la solidaridad son los valores que iluminan el camino de la institución y son imperativos para el educar. Es decir, que antes de aprender a hacer, la UNIVA considera que hay que aprender a hacer. Y precisamente la ética es la que se vincula precisamente con el comportamiento del ser humano, por lo que es la ciencia que enseña al hombre cómo debe de actuar para conseguir el fin deseado, teniendo la responsabilidad sobre lo que otros esperan de su proceder durante un oficio, profesión, arte o cualquier situación ante la que se encuentre. Es decir, es una ciencia de máximos, de excelencia, que nos lleva precisamente a humanizarnos, a perfeccionarnos o a mejorar continuamente. Quiere decir que el comportamiento ético nace de la razón, es voluntario, a diferencia de la moral que en muchas ocasiones es involuntaria. De tal manera que entonces la ética está relacionada intrínsecamente con las profesiones, es decir, con la práctica humana que nace y se organiza para brindar un bien específico a la sociedad, siendo este el principal objetivo de toda institución universitaria, la formación de profesionales. Quiere decir que toda profesión cuenta con un fundamento ético y toda labor profesional debe de cumplir con un deber ético. Para ello existen los llamados códigos deontológicos, que es como instituciones en lo que trabajamos. Es decir, estas normas y criterios y sugerencias respecto al actuar correcto sobre dilemas y circunstancias a las que se enfrenta todo profesionista o investigador en su labor cotidiana, es decir, a lo que habitualmente le llamamos la ética profesional. Pero también nos topamos con la ética científica, que es aquella que apela a la honestidad, la integridad y la responsabilidad en todas las etapas de la práctica científica, es decir, desde que un protocolo se diseña, se desarrolla hasta la publicación de sus resultados. Se conocen en la historia de la humanidad una gran cantidad de ejemplos de malas praxis científica. Muchos de ellos han servido de fundamento para establecer principios y pautas éticas, como el llamado Código de Nuremberg, el cual, sin ser un documento legal, es considerado un código de influencia significativa sobre la ética de la investigación científica en sujetos humanos, o bien los principios y pautas éticas para la protección de los sujetos humanos de la investigación, el llamado informe Belmont, que más adelante platicaré de él y que de hecho mi compañero anterior ha mencionado algunos de sus principios. O bien los principios de las buenas prácticas clínicas de la Declaración de Helsinki y el establecimiento de juntas de revisión institucional de proyectos de investigación, a lo que habitualmente le llamamos comités de ética de la investigación y que es parte también del tema de este panel. Y es precisamente donde a partir de este momento comienza la relación entre las directrices que asume toda universidad católica y los principios y las pautas éticas, ya que el informe Belmont considera 3 principios universales básicos en la conducta ética de la investigación: el respeto a las personas, la beneficencia y la justicia. Su cumplimiento requiere de un análisis cuidadoso y minucioso por parte de los investigadores, pero sobre todo por los comités de ética de la investigación, quienes son los responsables de evaluar o validar que todo proyecto de investigación cumpla con estos principios. Cuando hablamos del principio de respeto, pues este principio nos ayuda precisamente a reconocer que el concepto ético de que las personas deben de ser tratadas como agentes autónomos, pero también proteger la autonomía en aquellas personas que la tienen disminuida. Esto lo podemos lograr cuidar cuando trabajamos en protocolos de investigación en las universidades mediante la aplicación del consentimiento informado y también cuando cuidamos la privacidad de los datos. Cuando hablamos del principio de beneficencia, pues este incluye la obligación de todo investigador por no hacer daño y por maximizar los beneficios de su investigación y reducir los daños posibles. Y en caso de detectar que hay un daño, se debe de detener la intervención. Esto se logra gracias a que hacemos una evaluación sistemática de los riesgos y beneficios y también cuando minimizamos los riesgos. Y el principio de justicia exige la distribución justa y equitativa de las responsabilidades y los beneficios de la investigación. Incluso con este principio debemos de asegurar que todos los grupos en estudio no sean explotados por sus circunstancias, de tal manera que logramos entonces nosotros cuidar este principio en los protocolos de investigación cuando hacemos una selección equitativa de los sujetos y también cuando tenemos un esclarecimiento de los beneficios. Conocemos muchos casos, muchos ejemplos de malas praxis de científica, ¿verdad? Y que de alguna manera pues se convierten en habituales, pero no recomendables en los proyectos de investigación. Mencionaré rápidamente algunos de ellos. En muchas ocasiones hacemos un protocolo de investigación sin considerar las personas investigadas, es decir, nunca se les pregunta si aceptan o no aceptan participar en una investigación, es decir, se aplica un cuestionario o se hace una encuesta, pero no se les pregunta si ellos deseaban contestarlo, lo cual obviamente pues se podría lograr o controlar a través de un consentimiento informado comprensible, es decir, en el lenguaje apropiado para las personas. La falta del cuidado del rigor metodológico, sobre todo en el apartado de planteamiento. Hay estudios en los que de pronto se llega a conclusiones en donde se asume una causalidad cuando en realidad lo que se descubrió fue una asociación. Otro tipo de ejemplos de malas praxis es cuando se descuida la ponderación de los riesgos y beneficios de la investigación. Es decir, en ocasiones consideramos riesgo a lo que físico, a lo que podemos percibir o ver, pero descuidamos los riesgos emocionales y sociales del sujeto. También cuando hay una falta de claridad en los procedimientos para prevenir los conflictos derivados de la investigación. Si me voy al ejemplo anterior que mencionaba, entonces podemos identificar si a una persona una pregunta, ¿no?, de la encuesta o del cuestionario está hiriendo una susceptibilidad emocional, entonces tendríamos nosotros que trabajar en un protocolo en donde se esclarecieran el procedimiento a llevar a cabo para sopesar dicho conflicto. También cuando se es poco crítico ante la definición de confidencialidad. Hay estudios en donde se trabaja con sujetos para detectar ciertos rasgos o trastornos y que una vez que estos son detectados, pues la privacidad del sujeto queda obviamente, digamos, al descubierto una vez que estigmatizamos a este participante. También, cuando hacemos, según el uso que le damos a la información generada por la investigación, en muchas ocasiones los proyectos de investigación llegan hasta su fin, llegan a conclusiones, pero nunca se voltea a ver a la población que participó en el estudio para ofrecerle los resultados y sobre todo en muchas ocasiones estos resultados son para beneficio de esa población. En México, hace ya casi más de 30 años, la Comisión Nacional de Bioética acudió a los principios del informe Belmont, el principio de responsabilidad, el cual obliga a considerar ante el acelerado avance de la tecnología las implicaciones para las generaciones del futuro en el desarrollo de nuevas tecnologías, la dimensión prospectiva de la investigación y establecer medidas preventivas, sobre todo para asegurar la continuidad de la especie en condiciones propicias. Este principio cobra una gran importancia, sobre todo ante el acelerado presencia y uso o aplicación de la inteligencia artificial, que pues estaremos hablando más adelante. Ya para cerrar, quiero concluir entonces con todo esto recordando que la investigación científica requiere del cuidado minucioso de los principios éticos, promoviendo la observancia de la autonomía, la beneficencia, no maleficencia, justicia, equidad, integridad científica, responsabilidad durante todo el proceso de investigación, es decir, desde que diseñamos un protocolo de investigación, lo llevamos a cabo en este desarrollo hasta la difusión de sus resultados. Esto para garantizar la protección de las personas en su integridad y sus derechos. Y como universidades católicas debemos reforzar los principios y valores cristianos en nuestra comunidad universitaria que les permitan llevar a cabo una praxis dentro y fuera de la institución que contribuya al bienestar individual y social del individuo. Muchas gracias.
Gracias, doctora Salina. Tenemos al doctor Aaron Domínguez. Welcome.
Hello. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, you have the audience.
Excellent, excellent. Well, thank you so much for this honor. And I wish I could be there with you in Guadalajara. I'm joining you remotely from Washington, D.C., but I had some family matters that arrived unexpectedly. As you know, that's how sometimes these things happen, and they had to take precedence. I was really looking forward actually to going back to Guadalajara because I haven't been there since I graduated from high school, which is now quite some time ago, when my father and I rented a Volkswagen Bug and took an epic road trip from Albuquerque, New Mexico to Guadalajara and back. And I have lots of fond memories of that adventure and have lived to tell the tale. So I hope you've had a fruitful conference, and I'm looking forward to this panel. So on to the topic at hand, how can our institutions not only teach or regulate ethics, but collectively embody it within a rapidly evolving technological and academic landscape? I'm the provost of the Catholic University of America, which is in Washington, D.C. It's the only pontifical university in the United States founded by the previous Pope Leo XIII, and the U.S. American bishops to be the research university for the Catholic Church in the United States. This current scientific expansion, particularly the timely and extremely rapid advancement in artificial intelligence, is accompanied by, unfortunately, a very discernible erosion in previously well-known ethical landmarks, including concerns about algorithmic power and the commodification of knowledge. I think Catholic universities, rooted in a Christian anthropology of the human person that combines scientific rigor, ethical discernment, and social responsibility, we possess, I'd say, a unique strength to help the culture navigate these challenges. So I think there's a resonance between the wisdom of both ancient and new, and the idea that I find most fruitful for Catholic universities in addressing today's ethical challenges, especially those posed by artificial intelligence is found in this concept of approaching these advancements with both wisdom, ancient and new. This phrase is drawn from our Christian tradition, and the Gospel of Matthew in particular is the title of Pope Leo XIV's first new note to the church and the world, Antiqua et Nova in Latin, which perfectly encapsulates the mission of a Catholic university to, in quotes from his letter, to discover, preserve, and impart the truth in all of its forms. And this is done by cultivating an understanding of Christian faith within the context of human inquiry and values. As the previous Pope Francis has observed in a related but slightly different context, the rapid development of AI marks an epochal change. So it's not just an era of change, which all of us in the audience have been living through an era of a change our whole lives. We're used to it. We're used to a world that rapidly changes. But this is not just an era of change. This is now a change of era. So there's really a new era here that's upon us, even if, at least in my opinion, even if we don't realize it yet. And this requires us as Catholic institutions to deepen our reflection on AI's anthropological and ethical implications, and not just to mitigate risks, as we heard about, but to promote human progress, promote the common good, promote the flourishing of the human person, and not just to try to avoid to do bad things. And I'd say a crucial starting point, which is highlighted in Antiqua et Nova, is to understand what AI is, and more importantly, what it is not. While AI is functionally designed to perform tasks and achieve goals and make decisions based on quantitative data and computational logic, it lacks crucial human capacities that it can never have. In fact, the use of the word intelligence in connection with AI can prove to be misleading. And AI should be seen as a product of human intelligence rather than an artificial form of it. This is discussed in Pope Leo XIV's letter. The distinction is paramount because only the human person is a truly moral agent, exercising freedom in decisions and accepting their consequences. That's what it means to be a human being. Therefore, the ultimate responsibility for decisions made using AI must always rest with the human decision makers. This inherent human dignity, grounded in being created in the image and likeness of God as his creature, that underpins our ethical framework. And we're called to ensure that AI respects this dignity and promotes the integral development of the human person in society. The human mind, unlike AI, is capable of transcending immediate concerns and grasping unchanging truths. So this foundational search for knowledge that we have at research universities like ours, it comes from the way we've been created as human beings. It's this search for knowledge and understanding is clearly built into who we are as human beings. At our university, we're operating from the conviction that faith and reason are complementary pathways to understanding truth, and believe that scientific investigation can illuminate God's creation, while our faith provides a moral and ethical framework for understanding the implications of our discoveries. In fact, our curriculum at the university integrates theological and philosophical perspectives from all the different disciplines, including STEM, and our research is driven by a desire to contribute to the common good. And I'll say a few more words at the end about our new curriculum on artificial intelligence. However, this rapid proliferation of AI is presenting us an unprecedented ethical dilemma, set of ethical dilemmas across every facet of human life. Human relationships, first. AI is capable of fostering connections. It risks hindering true human encounter and fostering isolation. Anthropomorphizing AI can lead to transactional relationships, especially for children, and AI cannot genuinely experience empathy. So, and in fact, the use of AI to deceive, such as deep fakes, is a grave ethical violation that also erodes social trust. Second, in the economy and labor, while AI can boost our productivity, it frequently can force workers to adapt to machines rather than vice versa, potentially de-skilling them and subjecting them to automated surveillance and even elimination of their jobs. So the goal, as the church teaches, should not be that technological progress increasingly replaces human work, for this would be detrimental to humanity, but the reverse, that we use these tools for our own good. Thirdly, in healthcare, there's immense potential in diagnostics, but it cannot replace the compassionate human relationship between patients and providers. And decisions regarding patient treatment must always remain with the human medical professionals and never delegated to AI. And we should work to prevent AI from contributing to a medicine for the rich model. In education, it can be a valuable resource for tailored support and feedback. In fact, that's how we're using it at our university. However, it can risk over-reliance, eroding students' ability to perform skills independently and fostering a use without thinking approach to tackling problems. It can also provide biased or fabricated information. And I'd say that Catholic universities are uniquely called to emphasize critical thinking and ethical reflection on these topics and this use of AI. And that when we use it in education, it should always be transparent and never misrepresented. Its use in warfare, the weaponization of artificial intelligence is highly problematic, particularly what's called the lethal autonomous weapons system, laws, which lack moral judgment and ethical decision-making. And in fact, Pope Francis had urgently called for a prohibition on use of such weapons of war, that no machine should ever choose to take the life of a human being without a human decision. And finally, the relationship with God. As a society, as the secular society in the West, and at least in the United States, continues to drift from transcendence, people are tempted to turn to AI for meaning, which risks idolatry. And AI, though powerful, is a human creation, but a pale reflection of humanity, not a substitute for God. So our ultimate fulfillment can only be found in communion with Him. Finally, on to ethics and biology, human research. At Catholic University, we're committed to integrating the faith into our research. Extends profoundly into biomedical research and studies involving human subjects. And this, especially being based in Washington, D.C., gives us a platform to inform the general public, the United States Congress and the President. And we understand that biomedical research is not simply as a scientific pursuit, but as a vocation, a calling to serve humanity and God by seeking knowledge, promoting healing and respecting human dignity, and upholding the sanctity of life. So this type of commitment to the teachings of the Catholic Church is reflected in ways that shape our research policies, practices, and stance in the public. First, we have adhered to the ethical religious directives, or ERDs. All biomedical research at Catholic universities is conducted in strict accordance with the ethical religious directives for Catholic healthcare services. These directives were issued by the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops and provides clear moral guidance on a wide range of issues, including reproductive technologies, end-of-life care, genetic research, and these ERDs form a non-negotiable foundation for all of our research protocols, ensuring that our work respects the dignity and sanctity of human life from conception to natural death. Second, we foster an ongoing theological and ethical reflection within our research community. This involves regular discussions, seminars, and consultations with ethicists, theologians to explore complex moral dimensions in biomedical research, deepening of our understanding of the human person. We have institutional review boards, which is common in the United States. Our institutional review board plays a crucial role in ensuring that all the research that we do or that is proposed aligns with our own Catholic moral teaching, as well as not just the laws of the United States, but our own moral teachings. These institutional review boards review all research involving human subjects, paying careful attention to potential ethical concerns. We have an ongoing formation of our researchers, of our faculty and postdocs. We're dedicated to forming future generations of researchers in our graduate students and undergraduates, and our curriculum in the biological fields and biotechnology includes 3 years of philosophy and theology. And for the first 5 years of their time as new professors at Catholic University, we meet once a month during the school year as a cohort, rolling cohort of everybody in their first 5 years to discuss these types of issues and what it means to be a researcher at a truly Catholic university. And then finally, there's a dialogue between us and the broader church and church leaders. And we, at least, especially at Catholic University, have a special obligation to inform our leaders. So this type of human-centered approach, I think, is especially critical at this time. And so finally, I want to just wrap up. So given these complex realities, one of the questions I have to the panel here is, how can we be drawing on our unique intellectual tradition and commitment to integral human development effectively choreograph these research ethics at large? We can do it for ourselves as universities because we're in control of them. But how do we inform the broader culture and civilization? More specifically, how can we effectively translate our commitment to living a dialogical contextual ethics into a practical training for future researchers and be a public voice? At our university, Catholic U, we're approaching this as a concrete example. We're starting a new master's program and a new bachelor's program next fall in artificial intelligence, ethical artificial intelligence for the common good, and starting a new institute for AI and emerging technologies. So these will be launching the new academic programs in the fall, also certificate programs in the institute, hopefully next year. We're also creating an AI boot camp for bishops so that we can train the bishops on the tools that are out there, ways to use them for good in their ministries, in their dioceses, training up the lay staff and religious staff in their chanceries, so we can be the center for that in the United States. And all of this, you can see, is flowing from our Catholic faith, which is at the heart of our university. And we can do this not just because of our history or foundation as a Catholic institution, but because we have a fundamentally Catholic culture. The people, it's actually the people and the culture that we've developed and maintained and keep that flame of that beautiful culture alive. That's what makes it possible. So we must cultivate a renewed appreciation for what it means to be human, that transcends computation and guiding towards a true wisdom, which is found by integrating the whole of its parts and aligning our decisions with what's good, true, and beautiful. So thank you very much. I'll go ahead and end my comments there, and I look forward to the discussion.
Dr. Aaron, thank you very much. I think we have only a few minutes, and I would like, if there are questions from the audience to our panelists. We are too late for. Yes.
Please,
Sergio.
just 1 second.
Željko Tanjic, Croatia. Okay, maybe it's typical European question, but it's not. For Professor Garel, what do you think, how do you see reaction of universities in Europe on this dual use of research that is now ongoing? As you are on this position, very important position, European University Association for us in Europe is one of the largest associations and most important, and we are so glad that you are there on heading this association. What is now the feeling? How is going to be that dual use, and from ethical point of view, and also for practical point of view. And as former rector of a Catholic university, what do you think, what is going to be a challenge for us in this regard? So, thank you very much.
Thank you for the question. I think it's a very important question at the European scale. I mean that probably people outside Europe, it's a debate that completely different. Okay, who knows what is going to happen? I mean that probably the debate in Europe about defense is absolutely crucial. The political importance change from one country to another. I mean that if you ask people, for example, from Poland, the answer will be different than the answer that you will get from people from Spain, for example, just to put two examples. Okay, so the answer depends from one country to another, and as you know, the decision of the European Commission will be absolutely linked to the decision of the member states. So what is going to happen in the future, at least at the political level, I mean, for example, in terms of the investment of the European Commission for the next 7 years, who knows? But from my point of view, to open the framework, the research and innovation framework to the dual use will be a reality. I think that nobody can stop this. And going beyond the ethical dilemma, it is about money. I mean that if you open one research fund that has been mainly focused on civil applications to military applications, many people will apply. So in terms of money, the slice of the pie that the universities will have will be less than before. But talking about ethical principles, I think that the debate in many universities, regardless if they are Catholic or not, are very live. It's a current debate right now. So I don't know, to be honest, what is going to happen, but at least, and using the hat of a former rector of a Catholic university, in our case, the debate was held many years ago, and I think that we cannot have answers for every challenge or for every dilemma, but what we need to put on the equation is things such as the common good, things like that. We need to be careful because in general there are not good or bad technologies. There are good or bad uses of the technology. Aaron has been talking many times about artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is just a new technology. One of the things that he said is that artificial intelligence tools are human creation. But in the future artificial intelligence tool probably will not be human creations. Probably it will be artificial intelligence creation because the tool is so powerful that can create, for example, algorithms or things like that. So I think that we're living in very difficult times, very challenging times. Probably it is something similar to a change on everything. Okay, it's a fork on the road. So when I decided to share with you the open question about the public voice of Catholic universities in general, when it comes to the research ethics or the current dilemma, I think that we need to be a little bit more explicit in our identity. Because as I said, many people from Catholic universities are playing very important roles, defining policies, defining things like that. But they explicitly share with the people the values that they have or not? It's a question for you. Probably depends from one country to another. So I am afraid I don't have answers for you. But coming back to the origin, the topic about dual use in Europe, I think that it is already decided. It will be dual use in the framework program. The spend in military will increase, etc. And what should we do? I don't know, to be honest.
Thank you. Isabel has a question. Well.
Thank you for your presentation. And my observation is about the sacrifices sometimes and the dilemmas we go. Because we get research grants, but they are tied to some of the principles that we do not believe in as Catholic institutions. Maybe you have talked about that the search for knowledge, for innovation, and for money should not sacrifice the human responsibility and care. But what are some of the weaknesses that we find in the field of practice today? Thank you.
Well, I can just quickly respond from our side. I'll respond to the gentleman's question. We simply do not accept any research grants or money that would allow us to participate or force us to carry out any type of research knowingly that violates our moral values and teachings. So we just simply don't engage in it. And then secondly, we have an obligation as we just heard from the previous response, we have an obligation to speak out, forcefully and publicly against things that we know are wrong and tell them why. And that takes courage because it's a risk. When I sign a letter that is criticizing, the President of the United States and National Institutes of Health for funding research in human-animal chimeras, which are blending the human species with animals and telling them it's wrong and this is why, scientifically and morally, I'm out there on the record. And maybe that does affect our future funding as we get blacklisted in the future. But I think we need to be that moral voice in the public.
We have one last question from the audience, and we finish here.
Well, this is more of a comment, also relating back to what Professor Josep Carrel was saying, and Aaron and the colleague here from UNIVA. And I want to go back to something that we heard about, something completely different, academic diplomacy in the first day. Monsignor Gallagher spoke about, he was asked about the cynicism of diplomacy. And he said, well, cynicism comes down to the fact that you have to take concrete decisions in circumstances that are not ideal. And yes, diplomacy, to attain a better good, always involves a certain degree of diplomacy. And I think that we must be aware that in the decisions that we make, it is in the decisions that we make that there is always a certain cynicism involved. It is very clear that we agree on the values, but the values cannot be here. They are materialized, they become concrete in the decisions we make. As Josep was saying, dual use is no longer a question in Europe. But we have been there before, even before the issue of the military use of research. The discussion around the connection between universities and companies and applied research. I give the example of a very famous, perhaps world-leading university in agricultural sciences that is in Europe, that has a campus with hubs from numerous global companies, and students tying themselves to the buildings because they feel that the fact that there are companies on campus is really limiting the freedom of research, and that the research that is being developed by the university is directed, limited by the agenda, the market agenda of companies. This is what we've been there all along, and what I think that what we do as leaders of institutions is continuously to negotiate this. We can't, on the one hand, think that science hovers above, it's this pure exercise that hovers above the reality, right? And we make those compromises with every penny we receive, every dollar, every cent, every euro we receive from governments, because the government research is never neutral. So I think that the real issue is not in the codes of ethics that we all have, that we must have, but how we make those decisions every day in the research that we do, knowing that it is no longer, it's not simply about philosophizing about the common good, but really sometimes we make cynical decisions that a certain decision for dual use is important to attain a better good. So I would like to know how you, we're living in polarizing times, but I feel that there is a certain level of cynicism that we must be aware of in the decisions that we make.
100%, okay? Let me add one thing, it's about education. I mean that if the values of our institutions are present in our daily decision, in the training of the people, I mean training of new researchers, things like that, probably if it will help. I mean that if we strongly believe that what Nelson Mandela said, that education is the most powerful weapon that we have to change the world, let's do that. But I fully agree with you, Isabel. The devil is on the details. So it is about every agreement that we sign, it is on every contract that we sign, it is on every money that we receive, and obviously we cannot control what happens with our outcomes, what our alumni is doing in the future, okay? But that's the reality, 100%.
I don't know, Doctora Salinas, if you want to, si quiere usted hacer una última.
Bueno, en realidad podemos estar expuestos a una serie de circunstancias efectivamente que tienen que ver con los fondos económicos, con las situaciones, con la relación con las compañías, etcétera. Pero considero en lo personal, es una opinión bastante personal y que tiene que ver con mi formación, ¿no? Todos podemos pasar por diversas circunstancias, pero sí considero que nuestra labor como universidades y para mantener este tipo de relaciones es que podamos trabajar bajo principios de integridad, ¿no? Y la integridad siempre de alguna manera nos habla de ese principio de honestidad y de compromiso para hacer las cosas pese a todo lo demás que suceda. O sea, siempre vamos a estar expuestos a una serie de situaciones y manejos de distinta manera, incluso de proposiciones o propuestas, ¿no? Que nos pueden sacar obviamente de nuestra mejor decisión, ¿no? Pero yo sí considero que lo más importante es esto, que podamos tener un trabajo al interior para que también como formadores de profesionistas o de investigadores les demos esas herramientas. Y creo que una gran labor de la universidad es esa, ¿no? Que contemos con las personas capacitadas para poder salir adelante ante todas esas adversidades. Ciertamente el uso de inteligencia artificial, la biotecnología y todos estos procesos, yo creo que no están en juicio de si son pertinentes o no, ¿verdad? Sino es algo que es un bienestar para la sociedad que debe de existir, pero está obviamente en las universidades el que podamos obviamente pues ahora sí que fortalecer obviamente a todas las personas, a nuestra comunidad, para que puedan dar respuesta ante todo ello.
Bueno, muchas gracias. No sé, profesor Domínguez.
No, nada, gracias.
Okay, so thank you very much for this presentation, and now we continue with the elections, is it?
Demos por favor un fuerte aplauso a nuestros panelistas y al doctor Aaron que estuvo en la conectividad. Muchas gracias, doctor Aaron. Y le pedimos al maestro Nicola que por favor haga entrega de unos obsequios a nuestros panelistas presentes. Y le pedimos, por favor, que posen para la fotografía con mi compañera Carla al frente, por favor. Damos otro fuerte aplauso, por favor, y nos vamos a nuestra pausa de café.